Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar from the project Rural ICT Testbed Full Coverage. My name is Annika Svensson. I'm the Deputy Coordinator for the project with Luleå University of Technology. This project has 33 partners. We're all bringing them together to bridge the digital divide. That is eliminating white spots in the mobile network and enabling people to live, work and go to school wherever you're located. With me here today are a couple of the members in the project, and I would like to welcome our first speaker to the stage, Mr. Dushan Patel, Chief Executive Officer of Radio Innovation. Please welcome to the stage, Dushan.
Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are enjoying the webinar at the moment. Let me just bring up my screen at the moment. So as you can see on our tagline, Radio Innovation, let's cover the glass gap. So we have taken the big ambition, the big challenge to cover the last white spots around the world. And just like Annika mentioned, it's about bridging the digital gap around the world at the moment. My name is Dushan Patel, and I'm the CEO of Radio Innovation. So a full täckning or full coverage for included Swedish landsbygd, or the areas where we are trying to connect with white spots at the moment. It's about working together. It's making sure that how can a number of the different people in the country, or the operators, or the partnerships that we have, work together to bring down costs in such a level that everybody can have access to the to mobile internet at the moment. Our challenge at the moment, from our point of view in renovation, we are working in Sweden, but also internationally in parts of Asia, parts of Middle East, Africa, and Central and Latin America. And I want to share you some ideas about what we have done to bring down the cost and making sure that we can bridge the digital divide. As an example, right? So if you look at the biggest taxi companies in the world, at the moment, Uber, right? They don't own any taxis at the moment. The point over here is about sharing existing infrastructure, sharing existing partnerships, and making sure to bring down the cost. Take the another example of the biggest publishing company in the world with no content at all, right? To make sure that how everybody can work together to create content and bring down the cost at the moment. So Facebook is another example. I'll give you another example for bringing down the cost for the biggest hotel chain in the world, right? No, they don't own any single hotel at the moment, but by working together, bringing down the cost, they are actually making sure that everybody can have an affordable way of finding a room at the moment. So our point of view, it's a challenge about closing the coverage gap. There's about 3.2 billion people around the world who cannot afford mobile internet. So it's about making sure that the ARPU levels, the average revenue per unit or average revenue per user, when today, for instance, in Africa are between $8 to $12. How can you bring that down from $8 to $12 down to about $2 at the moment? The challenge here becomes to bring down cost, working together, and find infrastructure where you can share it at the moment. And I'll give you some examples what we have been doing in terms of delivering that, and at the end of the day, bridging the gap of digital divide. Okay. And as you can see here also, the United Nations is making a big effort by 2030 by just saying, let's eliminate the digital divide. The big challenge at the moment from us, from our point of view, and of course, what you're working in Sweden with full technique is about making sure that we can cover the last white spots in the world. So it's about a disruptive way of looking at it. You need to have another way of finding solutions to bring down cost. There are 4 key ingredients that you need to have that at the moment. Governments or decision maker in the areas of governments or societies who can actually say that, yes, there's a sense of urgency. You need to bring down and work together to see how we can find common ground. Reducing CapEx and OpEx, which I mentioned earlier. This is about the mobile network operators or or CSPs at the moment. How can we help them to make sure that we can reduce number of sites? Or making sure that they can actually put up a site in a very deep rural area, and making sure they can get back ROI, they get the ROI back again. And it's about shared networks to share the existing infrastructure or the future building new infrastructure, sharing it together to bring out the active, passive infrastructure cost down. And of course, Just like in full technique right now, it's about institution and partnerships. Today in full technique, as Annika mentioned, we have about 33 partners. We are working all together in a common goal to make sure that we can deliver coverage in the areas where coverage is mostly needed in the area. So I'll give you a couple of examples what the radio innovation technology has done to bring down OPEX and CAPEX and working with different people at the moment. Here you can see an example of a live site with Telia. On the top left-hand side, you can see the existing Telia site. By just replacing the antenna, you can see, by using the radio innovation antenna, you can see the coverage expands from 7 to 8 times, capacity expands from 4 to 5 times. This actually means that at this time, Telia doesn't need to build 4 or 5 new extra sites. It just with one, and you're bringing you're actually cutting capex, and of course in a long run cutting OPEX at the same time. Another example here is actually in Kenya, as an example, right? In deep rural areas, you can go and cover up to 18 kilometers with a traditional site, but using the radio innovation technology, you can reach up to 85 kilometers. That actually gives a approximate area coverage of 22,687 square kilometer area. That's half of the northern part of Sweden at the moment. So by just using one site, you can actually cover 22,000 square kilometer of an area. Okay, another example here that we are working right now with Orange, one of the largest operators in the world, is covering 180 kilometers from the French Riviera to the island of Corsica, and making sure that you have seamless connection for the ferry going in between 2 lines at the moment. And this is also bringing down cost, getting coverage, and making sure that people at the end of the day can start communicating with each other. Another example of bridging the gap. In Sweden, for instance, this is in Ludvika, one of the central parts in Ludvika. I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but you can see the black dots at the moment. Those are the areas that really wanted to cover, but the cost was too expensive at the moment. By looking at one site, replacing that, putting the antenna up in that side, we could cover up to 80% of the white spots in this area. Okay, so end of the day, it's about making sure that the passive infrastructure we have can be shared by a number of operators. We have a format today that up to 3 or 4 operators can share passive infrastructure to bring down the cost at the moment. So all the operators can have the same possibility of coverage and capacity without any way of discrimination. And then end of the day, it's about the 4 points I'm really trying to put up there. It's a sense of urgency. It's making sure that are the people, decision makers, behind what's needed about covering the white spots at the moment. Just like in full technique, as we are mentioning, there are a number of people need to work together, from the operator to the decision makers, and of course, the number of people you will be, the speaker after me will be talking about bringing those together and working together to get the white spots covered, and also reducing capex and OPEX, dramatically using reducing that OPEX and capex, not about 10 or 15%. We are talking about 50 to 60 or 70%. And the fundamental question is also about democracy, right? To making sure that it's about bridging the gap. It's about digital inclusion and try to eliminate the digital divide. So thank you, guys. Thank you very much for having me. And I hope you have a nice time. Thank you, Annika.
Thank you very much, Dusan. That was really interesting. And I guess anyone who's interested in finding out more about the solutions that you've had and the trials you've done, they are welcome to contact you or your coworkers.
Yes, of course. They are very welcome, and I'll be glad to share our experience, of course, in Sweden, but also around the world as well.
Thank you so much, Dusan.
Thank you.
With that, I would like to welcome our next speaker to the stage. That is Mr. Stefan Källström, who is Superintendent and Business Developer, Manager of the Mountain Rescue Services in the county of Norrbotten. He's a police officer, and he will be here with us today to share his experience of mountain rescue services. Welcome, Stefan.
Thank you very much, Annika. Hello, everyone. Well, I work in Norrbotten County, as Annika said, and I'm managing the Mountain Rescue Service. This is a volunteer organization that is sorts under the police authority. And for Norrbotten County, we have 9 groups consisting of about 100 mountain rescuers. For the whole Swedish mountain chain, There are about 30 groups with a total of almost 400 rescuers. For Norrbotten County, the mountain rescue commits about between 100 and 130 qualified rescue operations annually. And the problems that we face every day is actually lack of good communication. The Swedish crisis radio system, it's called Rakel. It's a tetra technique. The mountain rescuers also use this system, and they have handheld radios with very short, not very powerful radios. This creates problem in the everyday rescue operations because the most western parts of the mountain chain lacks tetra coverage, and there is also slim to none mobile coverage within this area. This means that the mountain rescuers uses satellite phones and a few other technical solutions to better up their communications, but they have almost no group communication, and this creates problems with coordinating all kinds of these rescue missions and to cooperate with other emergency services. So this is one of the reasons that the police authority supports the full technique project. The benefits that we see from a better communications for tourists and visitors within the mountain areas is that they will be able to communicate better with family and friends and relatives who become worried when they cannot communicate with their loved ones. Annika, can you help me with the next picture, please? And you can skip to the next one as well. The mountain rescue tries to operate very professionally, and one of the goals, or let's say the motto for the mountain rescue service is quite simple. An emergency call must be carried out in such a fast and professional manner that it constitutes a good first step in continued professional care where medical personnel takes over. And this shows the importance of good communication. Please help me with the next picture, please. The map that you see here shows the different mountain rescue groups from Norrbotten and Västerbotten County, and please, even the next picture. This shows all the way down to the southern parts where the mountain chain ends. In many of these shadowed areas, the communication on for mobile phones and radio communications are slim to none, let's say. And with the help of the next picture, which shows the coverage for the tetra system. All the white areas you see to the west towards the border with Norway are so what we call white areas where there are no radio coverage and no mobile phone coverage. And the last picture, please, Annika, is a clip from one of the police's technical support systems, which shows the number of rescue operations from a period from last year. And you can imagine these pictures as overlays on top of each other. You can understand that most of the rescue operations that the Mountain Rescue Service has is in areas where there are no coverage for mobile phone services or radio systems. And this visualizes our problem quite clearly, I think. So the benefits from having a better technical support and a better mobile phone system would be very valuable to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. That was really interesting to get an insight into your world and your everyday work. As we are about to hear soon, the Full Coverage Project has made installations of so-called hotspots in the mountain areas, in the white spot areas that you mentioned earlier. What would that mean to get use of them for the rescue operations and for the mountain rescue services, Stefan?
It would mean lots of benefits, because that would mean that lots of our mountain rescuers, if not all of them, could join let's say the operator that will operate such a system and use mobile phones for different kinds of services. They can send emails, they can send text messages, they can also communicate a lot easier, and that would help hugely.
Sounds great. So with that, I would like to thank you, Stefan, for joining me here today. And that is actually a perfect handover to our next speaker, Mr. Johan Jober from Nätägarna in Sweden.
Thank you. My name is Johan Jober, and I'm have been part of this full coverage project for a couple of years in different roles, but today I'm here representing the Network Owners Association. And I'll give you some background why we set up this association, and in particular focus on this project where we have built a mobile network where there has never been any mobile network before. So as you can see on this this picture, this is a site on top of a mountain in northern Sweden, north of the Arctic Circle, which means there is plenty of sunlight in the summer, but no sunlight at all in the winter. So we've been faced with no power. That's the off-grid, no fiber connections or internet, no road access for vehicles, normal vehicles, which is normally used for building mobile coverage and so on, and also in a sensitive environment. So as you can see, we built this in a way to have a minimum impact on the site itself. So it's just screwed into the bedrock with screws. So if it would no longer be needed in the future, it can be removed without leaving any traces, essentially. So the picture you saw, it's from one of the sites that we built in this area. So on the western side, on the left side of the picture is Norway, but on the right-hand side of the border is northern Sweden. You can see Abisko and Kiruna to the lower right, and then it's Narvik in Norway on the upper left. It's not, you cannot see the name, but you can see the illustration on the lower left where this is in the world. So there has never been any mobile phone coverage in this area. As you can see, this is an example with the Telia coverage, which is the best in most of these areas. And there is a little bit of coverage in some spots, but it's basically just mountain tops. Apart, of course, for the major roads and some access routes to this mountainous area. And there are lots of people that visit this area, some of them for taking handling the reindeer herding, for example, and but there are also a lot of tourists walking here along a popular hiking trail called the King's Trail. And if something happens, there is no way to make an emergency call or to update your friends on what you're doing or something like that. And it's a very challenging area to establish a mobile network. So some of the challenges we faced when we were looking at covering this area is who plans the radio network, where to put the sites, what antenna angle should we have, what frequency should you use. It's not just to set up a radio transmitter and transmit. This is heavily regulated area. Should we build like a 2G coverage or 5G, or wait for the future for the coming generations of mobile technology, or what should we do? How do we do it with the power supply? How do we do with the transmission, meaning how to connect this to the rest of the world? And once we reach, let's say, some good internet connection somewhere, where do we connect it after that? Should it connect to the telecom networks and the internet, etc.? Who does the deliveries? Who handles the installation and the maintenance in this very challenging area? It's very difficult to get to this site, and even if it's built, how do we make sure it is being maintained and continue to work? And we came up with a role we call the coverage guarantor, who means some company who takes the some organization that takes the responsibility for that this coverage is maintained. And who should ensure that there are services available here. So it's not enough with like a base station. There should also be some services like mobile calls or internet access and things like that. And once this is in place, obviously this is a great asset for everyone who wants to sell services based on mobile coverage, like the main mobile phone operators, for example, and who does the marketing of this. And so this is really how we came up with the idea for this Network Owners Association. So if for members in this association, you basically get assistance with all of these questions and many more. And it's a new area which we think will be more and more important in the future, since connectivity is very important for any property owner or anyone, being rural or underground or wherever it is. And as we've seen in this example, you cannot always expect the public operators to take care of all the coverage areas. So this is the same area, just a little bit more specific. So far we built the 4 stars on the top. You can see they are illustrating the base station sites with the different antenna directions we've set up. So it's about 50 kilometers from the north to the south along that blue dashed King's Trail called Kungsleden track. And then the great area with the dotted blue line, that's basically the coverage area where we have applied for using the test frequencies for this project. And hopefully we can get the commercial license from this spring. The lower part where there are dotted sectors, that's the planned expansion, which we plan to continue with during this year. And in the very uppermost part, you see Abisko. That's where we have the radio link, which is the connection to the rest of the world currently. We also plan for a secondary one in the lower left to make sure we have dual homing in case something would happen to one of the tracks. So we believe this is the highest mobile network in Sweden, and not in the world, maybe, perhaps, but for in Sweden it's the highest one. It's about 1,300 to 1,500 meters above sea level for the sites. We've been running it in test operation first with 1 site and now with 4 sites for the past winter, and now we're confident it's working well. We have ironed out some initial problems, like you always have when you do something new. So we feel confident it's ready to take into commercial operation from this spring. There are about 300 to 400 professional users that are active in this area, not all the year, but parts of the year, around the year, I would say, not only in the summer or winter, or it's around the year. And in particular, during the summer season, there are lots of visitors. So we detected around 25,000 mobile phones, unique mobile phones, that tried to connect to this network in the past summer, even though there were no so that means they had no coverage from their normal mobile phone operators. Obviously, we allow emergency calls for everyone who are in this area. So it's both for safety and daily communication needs. So some more illustrations here on the left. We added a wind turbine on one of the sites for the last winter, and we've been monitoring its performance during some some storms and even hurricane force winds, and it's charging well during hurricanes. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it's not always a hurricane. So most of the power comes from the solar panels, obviously supported by the batteries and the fuel cells that we refill once or twice a year. The fuel cells are used primarily during the dark months of the year, and when the panels are covered with the ice, also, as you can see in the upper right. So in summary, we have very low power base station, Pico base stations connected to very high gain antennas. So we can cover about 10 to 20 kilometers with the base station, which only has the output power similar to Wi-Fi access point. As you know, with your normal home Wi-Fi router, you can cover, if you're lucky, if you can cover 100 meters outdoor. But if you use this kind of antennas, actually we can cover up to 10 or 20 kilometers. So we are running this with 4G and 2G at the moment. 2G primarily to ensure we are fully backwards compatible to all phones that may need to do emergency calls. And the network itself is set up to support all the mobile network operators, either through roaming or through transmitting their own network code. So when we built the network, we did this in close cooperation with some of the key users, in this case the Sami villages that depend on this network. It's very important for them and their families when they are there. And also, obviously now with the Network Owners Association, and we set up a new company we called SiteMax, that you saw I'm also representing, which is specialized in building and operating this kind of specialized sites, not only this kind of mountaintop sites, but also other types of specialized sites. So that's basically it. Some other angles from the same installations. It's a beautiful area. And if anyone has further questions, you're welcome to contact me at any of these phone numbers or email addresses. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. Really interesting to hear that. Just a question. A while ago, we were contacted by a journalist who from Germany who wanted to conduct alpine training in this area. And he wondered if he would be able to use this network. He had read about the network that you installed. Would he be able to use it?
Yes, so far it's been in test operations, like I said, because we're still waiting for a commercial license from the regulator. We think we hopefully get that soon. So far, some of the Sami people, they've had about 100 subscriptions, test subscriptions they've been using to make sure it's working. And it's also been open to the public for emergency calls. So if they were here during the past couple of months, they should have been able to use it in case they would have had to make any emergency calls. But other than that, their phones would just have said the emergency calls only. So,
okay.
so for the rest of users with, for example, the major mobile network operators, the plan is to take this into operation for this summer season.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Johan. Then we're looking forward to the summer in the mountain area.
Yeah, thank you.
Something that we've discovered within the full coverage project is that the mountain areas, which Johan was just speaking of, has a lot in common with the archipelago and the sea areas. And therefore, I'm really happy to be able to welcome our next speaker to the stage. That is Carina Sameli. She is mayor of the municipality of Luleå. And you have just decided to join us in full coverage and build a common tower in the archipelago. Please tell us more and welcome to the stage, Carina.
Thank you. My name is Carina Sameli and I'm the mayor of the city of Luleå. Luleå is a city with 79,000 inhabitants in the northern parts of Sweden. We have a big land area in our municipality, but we also have very much water, as you also can see in the picture. We're a city with a lot of summer activities and a lot of people owning a boat. And the archipelago and its islands is very important for us. But right now we're also in the middle of a green transition of the heavy, dirty industries, leaving fossil fuels and trying to be fossil free in producing steel and other parts. That means that we are cooperating with companies to find new solutions and innovations to be able to find the solutions of the time we are living in with old problems and new solutions. And then we need to do innovations, and that is also what we are doing in this project. The Luleå archipelago is very big. We have more than 1,300 islands and about 100 people living out in the islands. We also have about 1,000 houses for residents, with people living there all around the year actually, but most people are in the archipelagos in the summertime. We also have tour boats going out with about 23,000 people going out in the summer month. But many people in Luleå also have their own boats. So we have about 100,000 people going out in the archipelago every year. And we also have municipality-owned cottages where you can rent them for a night or two and stay out in one of the islands. And we have about 3,000 guests every summer. Or you can go there all year round, actually. We went into this project with full coverage to get the better mobile coverage in the archipelago. First of all, it's an issue of safety. When we lack mobile coverage, it's difficult to have to call for aid if you need that. But it's also an issue of attractiveness. We want people to be in our archipelago and want people to be able to live there and visit it. And with no coverage, it is not very attractive. And it's also an issue of democracy and equality. We have people living out in the islands and they need to be able to connect to the world and to the municipality. And with no coverage, that is not possible. For many years, we have had complaints from people living in the islands, from the people having their leisure homes out in the islands, and also the boating people. And it is a safety issue. Not being able to call your family or your work to say if you're late, but also to be able to call for help, for ambulance, for a fire department if something goes wrong out in the islands or at your boat. So it's a very big issue for the safety of people, and it's not very easy to live out in the islands when you do not have the coverage and be able to connect. But also it's important to be an attractive place. We want people to be able to have to visit our archipelago. Both the people living there, of course, but also our tourists or me as living in the city being able to go out there. And when we have no coverage, it's difficult to get paid, to book, to know what to see out in the islands. And we also see after the pandemic, many people want to work from home. And it is not possible to work from the islands right now since the coverage is too bad, actually. So even if it would be possible to live out in the islands, or maybe in the summer month be out in the islands and work from there, and your job would accept that, it is not possible right now. And we think that we will need a better coverage to be able to have people all year around out in the islands. And for a tourist, today we have very few companies out in the archipelago. And that is because it's basically not possible. If you cannot connect to the world, it is not possible to have a company. No one can book your cabbage. You can't get paid for the services you will sell, or we have artists out in trying to sell paintings. That is also not possible if they can't pay you. So that is important for us to be able to have people living there, and also industries growing out in the island, tourist industries. Then they need coverage to be able to survive, actually. And we also have municipality-owned cottages. And our young people every summer go out. The teenagers get paid from the municipality to work in the islands. And then people go out to live in these cottages in Småskär, as you see in the picture, and stay for a night or two and see our archipelago. But we need to be able to get a connection for the safety of the teenagers working, but also the visitors, but also to be able to sell things. And as we have houses here, saunas and beddings, cottages, we would like to be able to connect the houses as well, to be able to see and maybe monitor them digitally from the land, to be able to see what's going on out there. And for us as a municipality, it is not the normal thing to have a telecom tower. That is not something we usually do, but we see it as an issue of equality. As we have people living there, and as one of our works is to make sure that people all around our municipality can have the life they want to. And also the companies should be able to grow every part of our municipality. Then we think it's something that we should try. So we're into this project, and actually this summer we are building the first tower, or building the tower out in the archipelago. The permissions are ready, and we're just waiting for the frost to leave the land so we can start building. And that is, we think, worth it. Last year we were actually made the decision, and the newspaper was writing about it, and I have calls from people ever since saying, when are we going to have the coverage out in the islands? So for Luleå and people living in Luleå, it is a big issue. And that's also why we think it's worth it in our municipality to be a part of the project and build a common telecom tower together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carina, for being with us today. It's so inspiring to hear the courage that you're showing in Luleå to be part of a project and jump with both feet first to see what this will lead to for you. I'm really looking forward to meeting you out on the island in the archipelago with a shovel when we start building this spring.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Super, thank you so much. And I bet if anyone in the other municipalities interested in finding out the process that you've been through, they are welcome to contact you in Luleå, right?
Of course, they are very welcome. Super,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
So with that, I would like to conclude the webinar for today. As you've heard, the Full Coverage Project is all about bridging the digital divide, eliminating the white spot, enable people to live and work from wherever they want. And this is a matter of equality, and it's a matter of safety as well. If you're interested in what we're doing in the Full Coverage projects, please don't hesitate to contact any of the 33 partners. You can see the logos, and you will also find the contact details on the webpage according to the URL in the picture here. Thank you so much for being with us today.